Let's go Falcons! There have been a few rumors that have generated a lot of discussion recently, so let's take a look at everything that's been going on around the Atlanta Falcons. But let me know in the comments what you think of Terry Fontenot's performance. Do you think he's been doing a good job so far? Or is he helping the Falcons sink? Let me know in the comments what you think. Now, could the Falcons pull off a blockbuster trade for a former first overall pick? That's the rumor that's been going around right now. And while it may be a long shot, it's definitely worth discussing. Atlanta has been searching for a dominant pass rusher for what feels like forever, and now, a new name has entered the conversation, Travon Walker of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's be clear, this is not a confirmed report. It started as a tweet from Sleeper Jaguars, referring to Walter Football, a site that, let's be honest, isn't exactly known for breaking big trades. But when a rumor like this involves a team desperate for pass rushing help, it's worth investigating. After all, Atlanta has finished 32nd in sacks over the past 4 seasons. This is the last one. If you're consistently at the bottom, no idea should be ruled out. So let's break it down. Why would Jacksonville consider trading Walker? Well, they have a new, young general manager. And sometimes when new leadership comes in, they want to reshape the roster with their own vision. It's not uncommon for GMs to move on from players drafted by the previous regime, especially if they feel they can get value in return. One trade scenario that's been floated is this. The Falcons send their first-round pick, 15th overall, to Jacksonville in exchange for Walker and the Jaguars' second-round pick. That would allow Jacksonville to move up 21 spots in a draft class loaded for defensive ends, giving them a chance to redefine themselves at edge rusher while also avoiding a looming financial decision about Walker's future. Here's the thing about Travon Walker. Has he lived up to being the first overall pick? No. Aiden Hutchinson, who went right after him, has been the better player. But that doesn't mean Walker has been a bust. In fact, he's been really good. 2 straight seasons with 10-plus sacks, 23 tackles for loss, and strong run-stopping ability. He might not be a generational Hall of Fame-level talent, but he's a guy who could anchor a defensive line for years. And for a Falcons team that desperately needs a consistent pass rusher, this kind of move could be a game-changer. Imagine a defensive front with Leonard Floyd and Travon Walker starting, Arnold Ebiketie and Bralin Trice coming off the bench, and David Onyemata working the middle. If Rooker Hororo and Zach Harrison take steps forward, suddenly this defensive front goes from a liability to a legitimate strength. It wouldn't be the best in the league, but it would be a massive improvement from what we've seen in recent years. Of course, the big question remains, how realistic is this? I'll be honest with you, it's a long shot. Jacksonville probably isn't eager to move on from Walker, and if they were, they'd likely want a premium return. But again, when you've been dead last in sacks for multiple seasons, you have to explore every option. The Falcons can't afford to be picky. And that's where the frustration for Falcons fans really kicks in. Year after year, we've watched this team struggle to generate pressure. Every season, it feels like a different player leads the team in sacks, 5 straight seasons with 5 different sack leaders. And the last guy to lead Atlanta in sacks in back-to-back years? Vic Beasley, nearly a decade ago. That's a brutal reality. So what's the alternative if Atlanta doesn't make a trade? The draft. The 2024 draft is loaded with pass rushers, and that might be the best path forward. Terry Fontenot, who comes from a scouting background, needs to find a way to land 1 or 2 young, talented edge rushers in this draft. The free agent market? Not looking great. There aren't many impact pass rushers left who are worth a significant contract. So let's put this in perspective. If the Falcons really have an opportunity to land Travon Walker, they should be doing everything possible to make it happen. If Jacksonville is even remotely open to talks, Fontenot should be blowing up their phones. The Falcons need a difference maker on the edge. Whether it's a trade or the draft, something has to be done. Now, here's the real question. If you were the Falcons GM and Jacksonville offered you this trade, Walker and their second-round pick for Atlanta's first-rounder, would you take it? Would you gamble on a player with a lead upside but who hasn't quite lived up to first overall expectations? Or would you stick with the draft and hope to land a future star there? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you pull the trigger on this deal? Or is it just another wild off-season rumor? Let's talk about it. And here's where things get really interesting. What if the Falcons don't make a move? What if they stand pat, avoid the trade market, and head into the season with the pass rush group they currently have? Would that be a mistake? Because let's be real, this team hasn't had an elite pass rush in over a decade, and banking on internal development alone feels like a risky bet. The reality is, Atlanta can't afford another season of anemic pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Last season, they managed just 31 sacks, one of the lowest totals in the league. And yes, they added Leonard Floyd, who had 8.5 sacks last year with Buffalo, but is that enough? Floyd is a solid veteran, but he's 32 years old and not a long-term answer. Then you have Morgan Fox, who's more of a rotational piece than a game-changer. Beyond that, you're looking at guys like Arnold Ebiketie and Zach Harrison, who still have question marks surrounding their development. That's why this Trayvon Walker conversation, even if it's just speculation, has some weight. Atlanta needs an impact player off the edge, someone who can disrupt games and force offenses to change their game plan. Walker might not be a superstar yet, but he's proven he can produce at a high level. And if the Falcons believe in his upside, wouldn't it make sense to at least explore the idea of bringing him in? But let's play devil's advocate for a second. What if the Falcons decline to make this move and instead double down on the draft? The 2024 draft class is absolutely loaded with edge rushers, and Atlanta has some prime opportunities to snag one. Guys like Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, and Chop Robinson could all be available when Atlanta is on the clock at 15. If the Falcons truly believe in their scouting, maybe staying put and drafting a younger, cheaper option is the right play. That's the challenge facing Terry Fontenot right now. He's in a position where he has to make a decision that could define this defense for years to come. If he trades for Walker and it works out, Atlanta finally has a dominant pass-rushing presence. If he makes the trade and Walker doesn't take that next step, the Falcons will have given up valuable draft capital for a player who didn't live up to expectations. And if he passes on the trade and the draft picks don't pan out, we could be looking at another year of a struggling Falcons defense. But here's the reality, doing nothing isn't an option. This team has been stuck in pass rush purgatory for too long. Whether it's Trayvon Walker, a top rookie, or some other surprise move, something has to give. Because let's be honest, Falcons fans have seen this story play out too many times before. Every year, we hear about potential improvements. Every year, we watch the defense fall short. So let's throw this back to you. What's the right move here? Should the Falcons go all in on Trayvon Walker, making a big trade to secure a proven player? Or should they trust the draft and build for the future? Are you confident that the current roster, with guys like Leonard Floyd and Arnold Ebiketie, can take a big enough step forward? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. Because one way or another, Atlanta has to fix this pass rush. The only question is how. Now make sure to click the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay well informed daily about everything that happens at our Atlanta Falcons. Go Falcons!